we did while we were in session before we went to executive session, we have reconfirmed, re-elected here to walk through that. The only change is that Kim is helping out Dave and taking over board clerk. And then the 3 voting members are Mark, Kim, and me, right?
Yes.
3 of us right here, because it may fall with Dave. And Dave and Todd will come as they can. We're going to continue meeting at the same time. Hopefully that continues to work for you all.
Yep.
And we changed around the committees, just that Kim is going to go to EES, and Todd is going to try to come to Energy Committee as he can, and Diversity as he can. Yes?
I think it was diversity.
No, Grant.
That's
You,
Yes,
just whenever it is, not as I can.
And
Right.
we'll invite him to,
And diversity,
Diversity,
when he can.
when he can, but not the energy. Okay.
Yeah.
unless we invite
Because
him.
then, yes, because then you have to warrant the meeting.
And we are now on to any, to administrative reports, I guess. Yes, Ron?
Yes.
Anything else?
And I'm going to start.
Oh.
No, the question that Dora Bougalis had asked during the school information meeting, I hadn't had heard that question in the
Social
past.
question?
No, the question about the students that go to private schools. So I have information that I'd like to report. I sent the board prior to town meeting information for the last 2 years of pre-K students coming into the school system and giving you a sense of that, but I also have other numbers to share. So the 2012-13 pre-K, 104 students. 1 student went to St. Michael's. The rest of those students, 103, came to Brattleboro Town Kindergarten, which turned out to be 17.2 students per kindergarten section. The next year, 2013-14, 107 pre-K students. 1 student went to Community House. 3 continued at Hilltop. In other words, they were in the Hilltop preschool program. Those 3 continued to stay at Hilltop for their elementary school. And 1 homeschooled. So that left 102 students that went into the Brattleboro kindergartens, and that was an average of 17 students per class. K through 6, we have an average of 12 homeschool students per year. That hasn't fluctuated that much over the last 6 years that I could look at, so that's an average of 12 students. And then looking at the surrounding private schools, Neighborhood School, Hilltop, and St. Michael's, these are Brattleboro students. At Neighborhood School, we have 8 Brattleboro students. At Hilltop, there are 29, and at St. Michael's, there are 37. So that totals 74 students.
You've confirmed that of the St. Michael's population, 37 are
Brattleboro students.
Okay.
Right. So that's 74 students that are at private schools, and again, if you added the 12 homeschoolers, you know, you're talking about 86 students that are Brattleboro students that are not in the public school, out of those 700.
So it's really good to know, but what we don't know is 10 years ago, was that?
Yeah.
I mean, no way of knowing
I
that
don't
right now, but.
Andy had some anecdotal information in terms of numbers of students that he's reported over the last couple of years that have either left the school or actually come into the school. I don't know that the other principals would have that information now, but you know, that's something that we track. So these are numbers that we can continue to report on, but I thought it was important to answer that question.
Ron, where's the total pre-K number from? You said 104 and 107. How is that?
Those are all of
people-
the preschool numbers that we have to document as part of our fall census.
Right.
And so
So if a
we
kid
actually
doesn't go
get
to
all the names
Right.
of each student.
So a student could not be involved in preschool or home and then just go to school.
Go to school, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So that kid wouldn't be counted in that.
And the St. Michael's.
Well, except, you know, those numbers are fairly, if there were a lot of other students like that,
Yeah, it would show up.
it would show up.
Yeah.
You know, so I don't think there's too many that are not going through the preschool system.
They're on the radio.
I mean, some of those homeschoolers
Yeah.
are probably.
What were you gonna say, Kim?
Well, I was just gonna ask, so we don't know of those 37, like say at St. Michael's, how many went through that,
All
because
the
St. Michael's
years.
has preschool as well.
Right.
It started with preschool and
Yeah,
we're
that
not
was a
even
question I
in
had.
the
Yeah, we don't know
public school
where they
system.
may have started.
And
As
Montessori
I,
as
as
well.
I said,
Yeah.
the one from 2012-13, we had one
Right.
student that we identified went to St. Michael's after the pre-K program.
Did Andy wanna do your anecdotal?
Well, I have some
on that?
data, and I have it actually, it's the last page on the monthly report there, if you want to,
So are you done with
if you
yours?
prefer to.
Yeah,
do that
I'll
now.
have a couple of
Can I
them.
ask a question?
Yeah.
Something not real clear about what we're supposed to do with this information or what the question was. And, you know, so it's how many out of, what's the percentage of Brattleboro students is under 10%? And is that pretty nationwide? Is that pretty average? Or I just don't know what context to set it in and what we're supposed to do with it.
Yeah. Well, again, it was a question that was asked, and she seemed to think that she had asked it for many years. I had not heard that question. I wanted to find out for myself in terms of those percentages. I think it's pretty representative. I think if we were able to go back 10 years, it's probably about the same percentage that kids and families, for various reasons, decide that they want a Montessori background or a Catholic school background. I doubt those numbers change that much from year to year.
The question that you say, that's an interesting one, Todd, is that a similar percentage for the rest of the nation?
I was just wondering.
Well, I don't think Brattleboro, I'm comparing to where I grew up in the Midwest, there were no private school options.
There wasn't
So,
a Catholic school?
no, we didn't have the Catholics, we were very homogeneous.
Oh, that's right.
it's
Lutheran,
Midwest.
right, right.
You didn't have the
Sorry.
Catholics?
No, we didn't even have Catholic. But
That's
we're
what-
very, very much, anyway, so,
That's-
I mean, not every part of the nation even has the choices. I think Brattleboro's kind of extraordinary in the amount of choices myself for a small town. I don't know, maybe that's a,
Not so much anymore.
I just don't know what
England
numbers to
area.
compare.
Yeah.
I guess my question is like, what numbers are we comparing it with? And maybe it's more relevant to look at the past 10 years ago in this district and say, oh, there's a drastic increase in private school students from 10 years ago, or decrease, or it stayed the same. Is that what we should be looking at?
Well, this is similar, and this is about around 10%, and I called it those schools and the grammar school, and I think there's a Montessori, or there's a school in Keene as well that had one Brattleboro student in it. It was 12%, so it's, it's that's pretty comparable.
I guess the point that occurs to me too when that question comes up is that it seems to suppose that somehow people choose private schools because there's something wrong with the public school. And I just don't know that I buy that myself from what I see from friends that have made those choices.
Well, and, I mean, we moved here from Connecticut, but my kids started in private school. So, and it wasn't because we didn't want the public school, we just chose because their dad had gone through private school, and that was the choice that, that was just a family thing, that kids went to private school. It was just a Catholic school, so it wasn't because we didn't like the school system, because they ended up going there, and all of their friends were from there, but it's just a choice, and it's not, doesn't have anything to do with the school system you're not sending them to, it's just what you want for your child.
So I like your question, Todd. I think that makes us all think just one more step and about what really, I think Dora's question is well taken. I mean, we were talking about a budget and how many kids are not in the public school. I think that was more maybe where she was thinking about. But to make that leap to me that says that because somebody's choosing to not be in Brattleboro's public school is not a reflection on the quality of what we're doing. So anyway, Andy wanted to talk about.
So, on this sheet on the, I think it's sheet 3, page 3 on the document just passed around. So I've been tracking this at Academy for the last 3 years. And over that time period, starting with the 2012-13 school year, we've had a total of 22 students have come into us from one of the local private schools. And you can see Hilltop Montessori Neighborhood, and we have a couple from Putney Grammar School, and one or two from St. Michael's, I believe. So, and it's something that, I feel like, we work really hard at that. We recognize that some parents, that they want their child in a faith-based school, and that's wonderful that they have that opportunity. And others want their child to go to a Montessori-type school, and that's great that they have that opportunity to do so. But we don't want parents to choose to send their kid to private school because of something that they feel is lacking in our school. So we work really hard to make sure we provide that. And some of the things that in conversations I've had with parents, some of the things that draw them to our school and have them bring their kids back from the local independent school to us, they really have confidence in our strong core programming, all the co-curricular activities we do, including our after-school programs now, our drama programs, all the enrichment that we offer, and the interventions. We get a lot of kids from local schools that also need intervention, from local independent schools. That model hasn't worked for them. And they come into us in 2nd or 3rd grade, and they've really struggled academically. And we have a great program for catching them up. So, I'm really proud of the work we've done, and that 22 in, 5 out speaks for itself. This does not include kids who are in the pre-K program, and then in one of the private schools, and then came to us. This is only kids who transferred in from a local private school in kindergarten and up.
Any couple of data questions? The breakfast served per day, 81, so it looks like about 1 in 3 students is getting a healthy breakfast every day, on average?
Well, it's like 1 in 4.7 or something, getting breakfast here.
Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, I was just looking at 81 and then 375 for the total.
Well,
Oh, that's right, I did the math wrong.
but
That's right. Thank
the
you.
number's low.
It's not too
I
bad.
will, we can agree on that. The
Yeah.
number 81 is low, it's actually down. And we've worked on that. One issue is we have, is that we have too many kids come off buses that get here too late. And
Right.
that's a constant struggle that we have with the bus company.
Right.
We've asked them, implored them if they get here earlier. Next school year, I really want to start the school year and get all the buses here in time so kids have time to go eat breakfast if they choose. The other thing is I just don't want to assume that those kids who aren't eating here are not eating at all.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I know for a fact there are lots of kids who still eat at home, and that's a great thing. I think that's a wonderful thing that the kids sit down with their parent and have whatever they have for breakfast at home. We encourage that anytime we can.
Andy, the enrollment is 375, absent is 364?
Right. So
It's
that
not
means in
different
that
kids.
month, there were a total of student absences, 364 student absences. So over those 20 days, so if you divide,
Yes,
I know it's a funny number.
it's a funny number. I'm going to concentrate on the average daily attendance of 95.
95,
That's
yeah.
easier to
Yeah, that's-
understand.
95 is a good percentage.
That's easier for my brain to wrap around there.
I know there were a lot of stomach bugs going around this
Oh,
past week.
yes, you got that right. A lot of illness in the school, in all the schools right now, I think.
And we still have people moving out, moving in. It's just constant all year long, isn't it?
Yeah, this year more so than others, and I'll have a transiency percentage for you at some point near the end of the school year, but informally, just when I look at the numbers, it just seems to be the revolving door is spinning more than than what we're accustomed to this
But
year.
it's not even revolving door like within the town and around the area. It's Connecticut, Massachusetts, Texas, Iowa. That's, I mean, that's huge, far away.
Yeah, two of those students on that list moved to us after the Christmas holiday.
They've only been here for a couple months, or a month?
Yeah, they moved here right after the Christmas break. So there's a lot of movement in the community, it seems, with children. And I think other schools are experiencing the same thing.
Another little data thing, the meals served after school, is that 35 every day that there's after-school program?
Yeah, that's the average
average,
day.
I guess,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's an average.
Because there aren't, it's, you know, the total, I mean, all the kids aren't there every day, so that's a pretty good, that's a pretty big number, pretty good number.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's a reasonably successful program there as well. We like this, we want to make sure that every kid who's here gets something to eat if they want it.
Yeah.
If they're hungry, we want to make sure no one's here and is hungry. And I think that we're accomplishing that. And it's free. It's free to anyone who's here. It's not on income as is the free and reduced lunch.
And just so everybody's clear, I think, kids come in here at 8 o'clock roughly, right?
Well,
And
it's,
where the buses start to arrive,
It's about 7:50,
7:50, and they can have breakfast.
yeah.
And then they get healthy snack.
Mhm.
What, about 10?
It varies from
9:30?
class to class, but it starts sometime around 9:30 to 9:45.
And then they get lunch at 11:30, some of them start, right?
Right.
And then they get another snack in the afternoon from the healthy snack program if their teacher so chooses to separate it out, right?
Well, if they're here for an after-school activity, the one requirement of the state is that they have to be participating in after-school activity.
Well, I was thinking before or after school.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're thinking if
The hunger snacks.
yeah, some, especially in the younger classes, the healthy snack is parceled out, some in the morning and some later for kids. Is that what you mean? Yeah.
So that may be 1:30, 2 o'clock, and then these guys that are doing it, that would be like 3:30 for their,
Correct.
yeah.
Roughly.
Sounds good.
So they can eat 5 times a day.
Making me hungry.
Within you
Or
are.
for elderly that are-
That's the healthy way to be.
And, there are, also, the older students are allowed to come down for seconds, on
At their
certain
lunch?
meals in particular, at lunchtime. I know like when there's chicken nuggets, for example, the extra nuggets are put in little Dixie-type cups, and kids come down, you ought to see them running down the hall to get the extra nuggets, but,
And Andy's kicking them out.
mine! They always beat me to it. So I feel really good about the fact that, I don't think we have hungry kids in school.
That's what I'm.
I think we do a great job with cafe services and all three of our schools right now, really providing multiple opportunities for kids to get relatively nutritious meals.
It's actually much more than I do in my own house, about laying out food for kids.
Okay.
I just have one other thing, and I just wanted to make known and invite everyone here and everyone out there from watching on BCTV that on the 10th of April, we are having a benefit at Hazel for a parent and a former student of mine at BAMS, parent of a child here at Academy. He had Stephen Baccaros, who has very serious cancer, is unable to work. He's one of the owners at Hazel. So we're doing a benefit, inviting people to come by. I have his permission to speak publicly, but to come by at anywhere that evening, starting at 4 o'clock at Hazel, to have a beverage, have an appetizer or a meal. Percentage of the proceeds will go directly to him to help him and his family because they're really struggling. They could use all the support they can get. And also there'll be an opportunity for people to make a donation if they wish. So it's April 10th, Friday afternoon at Hazel, starting at 4 o'clock in the evening. Anytime after 4.
So it goes into the evening.
Yes,
Yeah.
yep, so come on by and
4 o'clock.
4 o'clock.
Just so people know where exactly is Hazel.
Where is
On
Hazel?
Elliott
It's
Street.
on Elliott Street.
Okay.
on
Across from the
Elliott.
parking garage.
Right across from the parking garage entrance.
Okay.
Yeah, so you can park at the parking garage and
Yeah, a little further than.
come on down, and Cokes are on Ron.
All right, Ron
I
is,
didn't know that.
put that down
That's good to know.
for everyone out there.
Everybody, come on down.
Oh, yeah, everybody. Coca-Cola.
Okay.
Thank you.
Jen.
So I'll pass a dash sheet down. Those. Sorry. And then, so, run it, and you can skip it and pass this
Well,
down.
those are nice.
I know you don't get one. Yeah.
It's tomorrow.
Oh, wow. This is fancy then.
We're going for fancy this time.
I like it.
So the two pieces, you're getting the brochures for our Arts Night is tomorrow night from 5 to 6:30. We're trying something a little bit, we are trying to fancy it up a little bit, but we tried to highlight more different students who are participating in music or in their artwork so that we can maybe draw in more families. I say that knowing that is one of our most successful nights every year. All the staff come, have a full house. Our parent and community committee has worked a lot at, we got donations from Grafton Cheese, and we're having it like I'm putting air quotes around wine and cheese. It's juice and cheese to make it look like an art opening. And they have kids from student leadership are walking around with trays as if they're at an art opening. And one of my favorite traditions, we're in year 4 of this new tradition, which I stole from Vernon Elementary, is that we frame 2 pieces of artwork every year. And I think I've mentioned this. So this is the first year we're going to unveil that at Arts Night. The 2 students and their families will come to celebrate that. Their pictures are going to be professionally framed and hung in our
Do they know already who
gallery.
they are?
Their parents do, the kids do not.
Okay.
So, so that will be fun. That's how we're going to end the evening tomorrow night. So if you can make it, that would be fantastic. It's a great night. Really family focused. Data looks much the same. We did have one student move out. It's a pretty personal family situation. They're still here in town, kind of doing a homeschool hybrid right now while we help them figure out what to do next. So again, I appreciate Kim and Jill, you talking a lot about, and others, but talking about that children going to private schools is not a failure of the public school system. It's oftentimes a very personal and difficult family choice. It will show up on next month's report, but I just wanted to highlight, we are just started a partnership with Clayworks. So we're trying something new with an after-school program. Bonnie from Clayworks is coming, and the twist, and just not just having an after-school arts program, is that they're doing pottery, but it's a parent-child activity. So we're gearing it towards K-1-2 kids, but the parent.
Only Oak Grove kids?
What's that?
Only Oak Grove
Just
kids?
for now, yeah. I mean, but the kids have come with their parents, and it's just been really great and different. And I don't know, I'm hoping it takes off and then it grows, and that we have more and more parents and their children coming to do things together. That's one of our focus. So I'll keep you posted. Like all of us, we are just finishing up our parent conferences. I don't think any of us are probably prepared to share percentages of numbers, but I'm sure they're high. They're usually in the 90s or above for all 3 schools, I guess. And then, just lastly, from a staff point of view, we just did another progress monitoring data meeting. And what is new for us is I've talked about our PBIS team going to Tier 2 training and looking at that targeted intervention we've talked about. So we're starting to more and more unveil, and it's new for us, but within those progress meetings, not just talking about academic data, but talking about data around behavior as well, and planning intervention. So we've had kind of a trial run of that, a pilot of what that looks like, and now we're starting that school-wide, looking at things like how many times a child might need a timeout in the classroom, or obviously office referrals are easier to track, but having it be that our team is looking at if a child gets 2 partner timeouts, then that triggers some other intervention, and the team meets and talks about it. So it's been interesting. It's a different way to look at data. So going well. That's it for Oak Grove.
Okay, pull those down. Two handouts coming out.
Okay.
I like this use of color, guys.
What's that for you?
Works for me.
So the purplish pinkish handout is a save the date. Saturday, May 2nd is our 3rd annual Green Street School Tulip Trot 5K run walk.
Can I bring my truck?
Oh, we have to have two? I think it's 2 pieces.
Two
Is
pieces.
this 2-piece white one? Yeah?
Oh, I didn't mean for that one to go around.
The calendar goes back to you.
Sorry. If you're available on May 2nd, it's a great event. We ran
it
in it
all
last
uphill?
year. What's that?
A little
I
uphill, a
believe
little
it's all
downhill.
uphill, that's
It's, yeah,
my
it's
concern.
It ends
a good sized
downhill.
run. Yeah.
You're really building this up, aren't you, Mark? Yeah.
Good.
So feel free to register. You can register right on the website at the bottom of the page, www.tuliptrot5k.com. And it's our major fundraiser for the year, and really putting a lot of energy into it and trying to get a great turnout. So if you're available, I think that will be a nice way to start your Saturday morning on May 2nd. In terms of the statistics coming around, I wanted to highlight a few things. Next Wednesday, we'll be having our 4th all-school PBIS celebration, and the theme is going to be around spring. And once again, we're focusing on community building. And we're going to be partnering our older students with younger students. We're going to be planting some flowers in cups. And the idea is when we get back from spring break, we'll then be planting those flowers somewhere on our grounds, but we'll be creating a flower bed that hopefully each student in the school will have taken part in building that. So that'll be next week. We also have an arts night coming up. Report more on that next time, but it is scheduled for April 15th. So that's coming very soon. Wanted to highlight the after-school programs that we have going on right now. Like all 3 schools, we have really busy buildings. Green Street School is basically open from 7:30 to close to 5 o'clock. From tutoring down, you can see we have 36 kids in tutoring currently. We offer a homework club each day, and that varies from day to day. We have an after-school chorus program going on through the BMC, 18 students participating. Violin lessons, 6 students participating. Erin is doing an extension band for 5th and 6th grade students, 8 students. We started a drama club program for grades 2 and 3. We have 24 students who expressed an interest in that. It's a very large number. We're in the midst of Girls on the Run. We have 15 girls participating. And then we also have started our own after-school running club, which is anywhere from kindergarten to 6th grade. If kindergarten students participate, we ask that parents participate as well. So we have 40 students doing running club 2 days a week. So if you stop by our school after school on a Tuesday or a Thursday, you'll see 40 kids running around our building with parents
So don't stop.
and staff. So that's been a great program that's been going on. And then we started working with a group of high school students, the Renegade a cappella group at the high school. A group of those girls are coming to our school on Thursday evenings and teaching a cappella and singing songs with a group of 7 students.
Do you happen to know, Mark, the names of the high school students?
Yes, it is.
Shout out for them.
Yeah. Christina Mima has taken the lead, and then, what is the other one's name?
I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, no,
It's
that's
just-
okay. You'll
it's
have
exciting.
to give me a few minutes and the other names will come to me. But Christina Mima is the one who reached out to me and helped put it together. But that's been great as well, and we're hoping to highlight some of these activities in these students during our arts night, kind of like what Jen was talking about as well. In terms of new students, just this week, we have a 6th grader starting up tomorrow from Dover, and we have a 5th grader starting up tomorrow as well from Keene. And the number 2 transferred after 3-1, I believe that's a typo. I don't think we've lost anybody. So we're adding 2 more students. That's it for now.
I just had a thought here that, I know we do arts nights at different times, and maybe that's because it's necessary if we combine with the band, that the one band director can't be in each one, but I keep thinking it'd be fun to have the arts nights of the schools at the same time as a gallery night. Or maybe it's a supplemental time that the schools are open, just to let the community come in and see the really nice work that's done, and the feeling around, I don't know if all of you have been to art nights, but the feeling that goes through the school that night is quite happy and positive, and the type of thing the community
Yeah.
could really get excited about
It's a
too.
great idea.
And,
Jill, I do have a new hire as well. I don't know if I should do that
Sure,
now.
let's do it now.
or-
Sure.
Is that okay to do now?
Is that all right, you know?
Last resumes. Actually, we got one of those too. So, as you know, Gail Fleming, our librarian and media specialist, is retiring at the end of the school year. We have been advertising for a couple of months now and completed interviews just yesterday, and would like to offer the position, have offered the position to Shannon Ruck. She's coming to us from Greenwich Public Schools in Connecticut. As a grade 5 teacher, she's been you can see from her resume, quite a few duties, from school data team leader, worked on the district curriculum coordination. She's worked in the Department of Ed at New York City. She's got a vast background, and she will be entering into a library media program this spring as well. So I think she's a real find. I'm really excited about what she's going to potentially bring to the school. She's got a strong background in technology. So I think we're going to be able to do some really exciting things with our library moving forward. She brought a really nice vision to the interviews, and I'm excited about the prospects for that position next year moving forward.
And she's a teacher now. Why is she applying for the librarian position?
It's kind of her next goal in terms of her professional career. She has a strong technology background. She loves working with curriculum. So she sees the program as working collaboratively with classroom teachers, and the library being a resource for classroom teachers. So really partnering with classroom teachers in planning curriculum, as well as, of course, offering library classes to grades as well.
They're quite nice.
Pretty highly recommended.
The reference letters are extraordinarily well written.
They are. She really knocked us out of our feet in the interview. I think she brings a lot of tools to the table.
At this point, I guess entertain a motion to accept this recommendation for hire.
So moved.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
Can we clone her for for everywhere?
Just the references just keep going. So all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Did you want these back, Mark?
Usually,
I can-
Yeah, we usually collect them.
It's amazing.
Jill, while you're doing that, can I make one announcement that I neglected to make in my report?
Yeah.
Because our arts night is here on Thursday, April 16th. And that does include a gallery walk here and a band as well.
I have that in my phone. or Ron?
Just the only other date is the SU meeting. I think most of you know it's next Tuesday, the 7th in Dummerston at 6:45. So we would be hoping that Kim, Jill, and Mark are available for that. Dinner there'll be some dinner for you.
No other things for me? So committee reports, EES Policy Council, I don't believe has met again since the last time we met. And Kim, so would you be wanting to go to the very next meeting? Should I communicate that? Are you ready to start soon?
That should be okay.
So maybe I'll make a note to talk to Deb and let her know. And if you wish, I could go with you to the next one, and we
Okay.
could both be there. Kind of transition out that way.
Yeah, that should be fine.
Like Mark did with me.
That's right.
It was very kind.
Oh, that's continue.
Energy committee, anything?
Nothing new.
No, the
Finance?
bids are, the RP is out, there's a
13th of April.
walkthrough
Come back,
tomorrow,
yeah.
I think, in the boiler room, Andy, is that right, for potential?
Tomorrow morning,
10 o'clock, I
tomorrow,
think?
is it 10 o'clock, yes.
Yep, for the potential bidders to walk through, is that, am I remembering that correctly?
Correct.
Yeah, yeah, great.
Take notes, I got another meeting tomorrow.
Okay, I
Finance?
just hope there are a lot of people. Show up.
We had a finance meeting last week, but nothing pertaining specifically to the Brattleboro Town School District.
Okay. Diversity?
At a meeting today, just confirming the poetry night, district-wide poetry night, next Thursday, April 9th? April 9th. Yeah, so there'll be at BAM's multipurpose room, there'll be pizza, salad, and we're hoping that students and families will be there, and students will read some of the poetry.
What was the date again?
April 9th.
It's like April, nothing happened in March, everything happened in April. Unfinished business, I don't see any. Anybody have any? New business. Didn't talk to Steve today. So town representative meeting follow-up. I put that on there, I think, or we all did, at least. I wanted to get feedback from everyone on how, anything specific we might want to change for next year, anything we want to keep for sure for next year, any thoughts in general?
I think we should have less data in the, pre-town meeting,
The info.
school information meeting. We'll pare it back a little bit. Seems like we didn't have a lot of time to really go into the budget, so. I mean, I thought it was great information and really important, but it just seems like then we don't get on with the budget stuff.
I think that's right, but I also, that's the only time we have those people there. I mean, I emailed them every time we had a committee forum, and hardly anybody came. It's the only time we get to talk to them about those things that go on. So I'd almost rather let them wait for the town meeting for the budget part. It's hard to,
Yeah.
I mean, it's a hard balance. It's just, that's the opportunity to really get a bunch of people, get that information to them.
I mean, maybe we could have more visual and actual pictures amongst the slides or whatever, with the kids actually participating in some of the things that they're doing as well.
It's worth 1,000 words.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll be thinking about that
Yeah,
as we,
great.
prepare for next year.
I kind of agree with Dave too, that it struck me as the questions were coming up in the budget, that almost all of the questions tied back to something that had been pointed out in your presentation.
Yeah.
You know, that, why do we need this sort of thing? Well, you could go right back to it. So I hate to cut back on the presentation too much, perhaps.
Yeah, no, I don't think we'll come back too much, but a little bit.
Yeah, okay. And then I was wondering if maybe next year we could see the presentation ourselves beforehand? Is that impossible?
We probably could do it. I mean, it'd probably be ready maybe 3 days ahead, maybe the end of the
Like a
previous week.
rehearsal.
We'd have to be the ones to go most out of our way. I mean,
Yeah.
we couldn't ask you to have it ready 2 weeks ahead so we could.
No, but, by that
Why
Friday,
can't
we
we
could have
see it
sent you the
Oh,
PowerPoint.
yeah, I thought about it, I forgot about email.
No, we'd send you the PowerPoint.
Yeah, that's.
And it was probably finalized at the end of that week, the week before.
We wouldn't want to have it the whole meeting before?
Well, you could, but, you know, that's a lot of work for some of the people that have to put it together.
Because of the timing?
Yeah, and the data that they're collecting.
So they have to collect it eventually anyway.
Well, I know,
Do
but-
it, so I just didn't know what the,
Yeah, it's just probably not
Hesitation.
available. I mean, some of the stuff is, but I'll check, you know, we'll see.
Well, here's a thought, since it's on a computer, is it possible to have a DVD of the presentation, and we can sit down, as much as we go and sign warrants, we can sit down and view the
we haven't
product?
doing a very good job of signing
Well,
warrants.
we-
Yeah, nobody's coming in, by the way.
Just you.
Well, we changed that, but, you know,
Well, as we get
Oh,
closer
we'll
to it,
just
you know,
use it.
we'll talk more about what.
a self-directed
good way to preview it.
presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally had a lot of comments. I think 7 or 8 people stopped me during town meeting throughout the day to say that they appreciated the information that we had given them and that they were surprised. I've had probably 4 or 5 people stop me and tell me they weren't town meeting reps, but what I printed in the paper of basically the same comments, that they were very surprised. The statistic that most stuck out in people's minds was the homeless number. That was obviously shocking. The EES data that was presented by Deb was also something that really drew gasp amongst our fellow town folk. But I had a lot of people say that they really appreciated hearing that the board was going for a 0% increase and listening and wanting to respond to the structure of the taxes that we all pay.
And I have had a couple of people approach me and compliment Dave on actually mentioning the driver for our costs being poverty in the area to a great extent. So they know it's simply not us arbitrarily, you know, funding programs, this, that, and the other. It's actually being driven by something very, very tangible.
Some taxi people are here.
Somebody at the door.
Well, if nobody goes, we'll figure out the petition.
Dave, I'm calling.
So next year for the budget process, I think we want to just be clear on when we start, what our goals are and how we want to go about that. And perhaps a little bit earlier than we started this year.
A little earlier than the beginning of November?
Well, just, I don't know if we talked about our goals.
Yeah,
We
you
could
can
start-
start that in September.
Yeah, we got all summer with that, maybe.
I guess personally, I don't see it becoming an easier process. So just to be prepared that we're probably going to look at tight budgets.
Yeah, I think that the tough thing for Frank and for us is getting all the requests in and actually seeing what the budget numbers look like. We can talk about what we want, what we wish for, and what we hope will happen, but, you know, until we see a first draft, it's really hard to see, okay, is this gonna be realistic? What can we really accomplish, and what it would take to do that? So, you know, we'll do that as soon as we can. We can,
Because we did sign off on a contract that was 2.2%
Yeah.
increase.
yeah, so that'll help.
That overall, well, it'll help, but it won't help. It goes up by 2.2. That affects that bottom line number by at least.
A lot better than it could have been.
Yeah, I think,
Well, it was,
I don't know what Jill's getting at, but I look at that 2.2% and at the student numbers, and it kind of looks like we've got a year, you know, we have this budget in place, and we've got a year to look for some savings and some reductions, particularly in terms of staff, which is the hardest thing to do, which is where the money is, to really sort of plan for that coming. I think we need to look at this coming year as a year that we find a way to get to the same number, you know, to keep our budget really as level as we possibly can, and a way to absorb that pay increase. So that's, you know, I don't know, I didn't sit down and do the math, but it's you know, it's a few positions, it's a few jobs.
Yeah.
And so I think starting to look at, when I mentioned attrition, that's kind of what I was referring to, is to look at, because it's now, those contracts are out, you'll know, when are they due back, the 30th of the month or something?
In May.
In May, yes, and at that point, you're gonna know what positions are open. And I'd like us to know that you're gonna be looking at those positions in terms of which of those might you be able to not fill that would do the least damage.
Mhm.
Because there are no superfluous people, we all recognize that, and there are no services that we really would recommend getting along without, but the die has been cast, and we're clearly gonna be having to look at those things.
Yeah.
And, so I think having that be the first approach is to look at, are there positions that we could not fill? Or positions that could be shared, or ways of looking at, some of the things we deliver that could be done differently, would be a good start. Another thing, we've got a lot of expenses coming up, like we know about all the heating units in this building, and Andy mentioned the floor here the last time we were here. I'm sure there are other things, we've been hearing about Jen's glass blocks for a long time. And we're looking at boilers, and there's a grant program coming for boilers, but we've got a lot of capital things and building maintenance things. And I think it'd be very helpful if in the next few months, before summer comes and people are away, if you could find time to put together a capital plan for the next 5 years. So we can be looking at what kinds of extra things are we gonna be either doing bonds for, or having to be prepared to spend money on. Because as far as I know, we don't have something like that laid out for the future in terms of those costs. And I think it also would be helpful, and I'd be happy to do this. I was over at the town clerk's office and got records back to 1987 or something, the actual student counts, but they're gonna have a spreadsheet of what's happened with the student numbers, and be able to look at the actual numbers. And we heard some of that tonight in the reports. It's interesting, we have 17.2 kids in each kindergarten class and an average of in the other ones. But to know how many kids are in each of these classes, are there places where it's time to, we've got 45, it's time to go to two 22s, or a 22 and a 23 instead of 3 15s, those kinds of things. And those are the things that I think you're really gonna have to be looking at, and we're gonna be, at least I and I hope other people agree, are gonna be asking about as we sort of move toward that budget, through this whole next year. Because I really feel like we've got a year off, we basically got a year, we got a gift from the town of a year because of that presentation, but it's gonna be really hard if the numbers continue to drop, to keep getting that budget through.
I guess I'm thinking too, especially of student numbers, because I had an email, I think I copied you on at least, I think I copied you guys, but from somebody as a town rep that recently that said she wanted to understand, and I think it's a pretty reasonable question, what are the student numbers? She said, and what exactly is happening in the classroom that we, and that's the thing that cracks me up. We all go back to when I was a kid, and it's just this automatic thing. And she said, when I was a kid, or when I was a parent even of my kids, there were 25 kids in the classroom, and there was no para, and there weren't all these academic support teachers. So she said, what's going on that we need all of the staff now? And I answered her with what I understand from you guys. I used the example we had last year of the toilet training that wasn't quite accomplished before they got here, and how that slows the class down when you have to put 2 adults on that. But I think that is a reasonable question she's asking. What's the number and of each kid, each classroom? How many students are actually in the classrooms? I was also sitting there thinking, while Frank was talking during the town meeting, and he gave a really great explanation of how when you decrease a certain number of kids, you don't decrease a classroom. But then he scared me when he said, well, if you took 100 kids out of academy, you would still be looking at probably the same amount of classrooms. I thought, really? Is it 100?
Yeah.
Because how much money is that?
Well, I think he's out of the preschools.
Yeah, the 3 schools.
He
I
said
think he
an
was trying to
academy, but
use
maybe
a
it'll be
round
better.
number,
I think he meant
an easy
I hope so.
example.
Because 100 from academy and still keeping the same classroom, that
No,
would
it
be
would be
really
the same.
high. But I guess, so I'd just like to see how many kids do we have in each classroom?
Are you asking now?
No, because you wouldn't have that.
Well, we had it. We gave it to you at the town meeting, at the representative.
No,
It's 18, the student to teacher ratio in a classroom, it's 18, 17, and 16.8
Yeah, I wanna know, how many
That's in-
kindergarten kids?
in
do
every
we have?
classroom.
In every building? You mean
Every
all-
building.
That's I mean, there isn't like a fourth grade where there's two 12s and a 15?
That's
or
what I
something?
wanna
There might
see.
be one with 15, and then the next one is 18.
That's what I'd like to know. How many kindergartners do we have? Because I know kindergarten was one of those spots where we talked about perhaps needing to have more staff, just
Are
2
you,
years
are
ago.
you asking, so we have, in kindergarten, teach A, B, and C here, D, E, and F.
Yeah,
Right.
And you
Yeah.
wanna see,
Yeah.
teacher A has,
yeah. That's
I
what I
mean,
want
it
to
doesn't
see.
seem like that's hard information to gather, and it may not be of any value whatsoever, but I'd like to know that.
I'd just like to know when somebody says to me, and I can say, well, look, in kindergarten, we have 20 kids in each kindergarten class, and we know that statistic, that's what I answered to this woman, was that I remember you guys saying a couple years ago that the optimum number for kindergarten classroom was 17, according to some research that you had seen.
Well, it's also the state quality standards in terms of the class size that they recommend, and we can look at that. and-
Yeah, that'd be
and
great,
know
put that
that
on there
we're
too.
above the state average in terms of their class sizes.
Perfect. I just would like to see it.
yeah, I mean, it's always an interesting question when people say, well, when I went to school, when I went to that, you know, I came through your school and there were 25 kids in the classroom. You know, and it was a very different day and very different time.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When, you know, authority carried the day in many situations, and that's no longer the case. And when, so look at the table, when all of us over here went to school, there was no such thing as special education.
There wasn't. Oh.
No, that started in,
The other
I'm on that side of the
Yeah,
table.
you get
I was
out of
there.
here.
Kim's
I was
over
in
on
the
that side of the
little
table.
tunnel area that they taught me.
As the federal law, the first law, especially came into Massachusetts, chapter 766, and I think that was 1976. And
I
then
was still-
94-142 was the federal law that came the following year. So that's one example. But the needs that we serve are can't compare any more than Dave's first car, that '63 Chevy, could compare with your Mercedes that you're driving, your Mercedes SUV. I mean, they're very different.
I'll swap you for the Chevy.
They're very different. Well,
Got one?
the needs of the kids today are very, very different than they were in, you know, in generations past. And we meet those needs, you know, and you also hear people say, well, I went to that school, we went home every day for lunch and came back. Well, as you heard earlier, we're serving, what'd you say, 5 meals a day right now? So it's a very different,
5 evenings.
5 opportunities.
it's a very different school. School is very different than it was. And also that, I believe right now that we have just reached the highest graduation rate for high school graduation in the United States. I think this past year was the highest ever. The second half was back during the Vietnam War, when
You stayed in school.
people stayed in school, because if you didn't, in my generation,
Yeah.
you went to Vietnam. So, but when there were 25 kids in a classroom, yeah, believe it or not, the high school graduation rate was about 50%. So, we've made significant changes since then, for sure.
Absolutely. So arm us with the information. And, which brings up another point that I said at town meeting, I say it again, that every one of you guys knows more than we all do. And theoretically, we know more, we've been informed more anyway than a town rep. But to have all of us come to the same conclusions on the budget requires walking through that path. And so I kind of want to start it now with some of these looks at these numbers, and so it's not a slam all on November. Perhaps I'm the only one, but in November and December, my brain is on a few other things besides school budgets.
That's right.
Just, can I share one observation from the
Please.
process?
Yeah.
It was, you know, I stood back and looked at the Wednesday evening here. We had a lot of folks with a lot of questions, a lot of tough questions, but people really wanted a lot of answers. We had people who were making statements, people who are asking a lot of questions. And then I look at the vote on Saturday, and I only counted 5 people who voted against the budget.
Oh, I counted
Who
3.
stood. Now, that's very unofficial count from where I sat, right? I saw 5, perhaps 6 or so. So I have to interpret that to mean that that's an overwhelming majority support for the budget. And a lot of folks who were here that I would have guessed were going to vote no, voted yes on Saturday. So that also tells me that they liked the responses that y'all gave. And, you know, that they came with an open mind, asked some tough questions, and left saying, yeah, I think, you know, this is a budget I can support. So, you know, I think it speaks to the process, and it speaks to the whole budgetary process, and it speaks to what we're doing. That people supported it wholeheartedly and overwhelmingly.
Well, if you give them the correct information and how we arrived at it and what we've tried to do, I think that paid dividends on that Saturday morning. On the Thursday.
And why it costs so much more.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really that really is the issue, and that's what they're talking about in Montpelier, and they really don't have the answer. You know, it's like we have 15% fewer kids, and the budgets just keep going higher and higher. Where's that money
Well,
going?
it's a conundrum. I don't know how
And the
to-
more we tell them, the more likely they'll support it.
But I'll just, real quickly, because we'll talk more, but about class sizes and support. I think there's this other piece too about the use of technology and what that means for classrooms and what we've had to step up to the plate to provide. But also, as we go through AYP, not making AYP and corrective action, you know, there's things like mandated textbooks and research-based programs that are tens of thousands of dollars for the cost of the district that I appreciate what the AOE says about having to make these changes, but on the other hand, they're also telling us you must do these things, which are high-cost items. So that's a little bit of a contrast too, when, you know, as we're being, looking as an SU to adopt a SU-wide reading curriculum. I know when we adopted Elk Grove, it was significant, as you all know, in the budget just for the smallest school in Brattleboro. So when that starts happening and being required by the state, and the districts respond, it's gonna be a huge cost.
Yeah, and that would be a great thing to have on the list for what we do present next year, because we haven't talked about that. You know, we've mentioned the state, but again, we haven't filled it out, we haven't teased it out.
Oh, I had a comment that flew out of my head, I guess. Thank you. Mark, did you have anything you want to bring up?
No, I think I've interjected.
Other Mark.
Oh, sorry about
All
that.
right, did you have anything this way?
No, I defer to the Mark.
No, I mean, just to back up on what Jen was saying about a reading program, for example, we started a literacy task force a couple of weeks ago at Green Street. And we have our second meeting coming up next week, and we're looking at core reading programs similarly to what Oak Grove has done. So that's a costly thing, but that's something we feel like we need
I remember my comment.
to do for our school moving forward.
I did have a conversation with Molly Burke on Sunday night, and she's looking at the law that's coming to the floor, or the bill that's coming to the floor to become a law potentially tomorrow.
They were talking about today.
Yeah, oh no, today. So she said one part that she was really hoping could be brought forward was no more mandates, unfunded mandates from the state level that are sent down.
Good luck with
I was like,
Actually,
pointing out
that's in the
some
bill,
arguments.
and it's in the Senate version too, whether it gets through or not.
Yeah, it is in there,
Right.
exactly, and she's hoping that that part might be able to be pulled out and survive with some other parts that she's not so sure on, but at least one of our representatives here in this area is aware of that you're talking about, and you're putting it up. Any other comments to follow up on town representative meeting, town information meeting?
I just think in general, we and particularly you people provided a lot of really good information. Frank too, who's not here, did really miraculous work in terms of helping people understand why things are the way they are, and I think we got a lot of support. I think we're in really good shape. We've got a good relationship with the community now. keep putting effort into it and it'll stay that way.
Okay, so traffic crosswalk updates.
Oh, yeah, they put the
I didn't
foundations
hear
in.
back from Steve, but yeah, it looks, Andy, it looks like they're out there.
The foundations are in on both sides, and one crosswalk light
Oh,
is
it
in
is?
the one on this side of the street, the school side, was installed this morning.
Yeah,
I don't believe it's working yet, but it's in
progress,
progress. It's
Yeah,
great.
it's nice to
which
see.
kind of meant maybe slowing progress in order to move forward. Okay, so that, and then we were skipping C, D, and E, right? Because they're for tonight. That brings us only to next agenda items. So are C, D, and E moving forward, and you'll let us know if that works for them?
Yeah, I think the climate won't be ready until May, and school improvement action plans, we'll review that and figure
So
out.
maybe
when
that's
that's
May too.
appropriate.
What was on our, yeah, this thing?
Yeah, it was those, so I'll move the climate.
nothing
to
else?
May.
And is the next one during school vacation week or no? So we are
So
meeting
week
the
before,
second?
yeah.
So we are meeting. Yep.
Skip it.
I don't know. Do you all want to skip?
What's the date?
15th.
Tax day.
I'll have ours.
I can't think of a better way to spend
Mark
tax day.
Mark will have tax night, did you know?
It wouldn't hurt.
We could
Doesn't
skip
have a-
if we wanted,
50.
folks. We don't have a huge amount of things on the agenda.
Prior to the May meeting, you'll get the 1% applications ahead of time, so that'll be something
Okay.
for your homework.
Okay.
We wouldn't expect anything else being in a school board to not have homework.
So I'm hearing,
Well,
My
if we don't
dog
get
will eat
a,
it.
Do
if we don't get an
administrators?
email agenda, we'll know.
I wouldn't be able to make the 15th anyway, it's our arts night at Green.
Jen and Andy, did you really want to have a school board meeting on the 15th?
I love them the next
Andy,
night.
is your
Oh,
arts night?
That's great.
No, it's
It would
the
be-
16th.
It would be tough, but I would.
You could make the
You make the
sacrifice.
That's it, take
Well,
one for the
I'm
team.
thinking we're already doing the 7th next week, so it's,
yeah, that's true.
What's next week?
Well,
That's-
if
that's
you all
your-
come to
Yes,
the
you
arts
don't have
night
to go.
at all three
I
schools,
will-
that'll be in
credit.
lieu of the board meeting.
So
Good
May
job.
6th, we're looking at May 6th.
I can come in my Zumba clothes tomorrow.
Really? May 6th?
I got like
I'll
15 minutes
come
I
to
can
see
be there.
that. How's that?
Sounds good.
All right, so the next agenda items are gonna be for the May 6th meeting.
Yep.
And we will not meet the April 15th, no
It'll
meeting.
be back here at Academy.
Are we still here at Academy? Yeah, May 6th? Or are we over at EES?
AES.
EES.
Yes. Is that a joint meeting?
No.
I don't think so, I think that's later on.
Is that June?
June 3rd.
And remember that joint meeting, June 3rd, we talked about doing an actual training that's required of board members, and so all of us will do that. But Deb can tell you exactly what it's on. I forgot, but it was actually quite interesting. Okay, then we need a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
We'll see you all next week.
There we are.